Jeremy, first of all, I just wonder, how settled do you feel now as a Liverpool player, and how close are we to seeing maybe your best form in a Liverpool shirt?
Yeah, I feel really good. Obviously, I'm from Manchester, you know, so obviously, to be back in the UK is really nice, and to play for a team like Liverpool is really a privilege. So I've got good teammates as well. So yeah, I'm really happy where I am right now.
But given the way the Premier League season has gone so far, what extra significance does this competition now take on in your season?
Yeah, obviously, everybody wants to play in the Champions League. Champions League is one of the biggest competition out there. So everybody wants to show what they got in the Champions League. So obviously, we're going to give it our all, and hopefully, we can get to where we want to get.
Why do you feel so far this season in the Premier League it hasn't necessarily clicked for you? But you've had big results, obviously, in the Champions League. And what pressure are you guys feeling to ensure that you are in the Champions League next season as well?
I think sometimes football's like this. Sometimes it goes your way, sometimes it doesn't. Obviously, we try our best every game, but sometimes it just doesn't work out that way. Yeah, that's all I can say about obviously the past results. But obviously, Champions League, we're doing good. We're in a good position. If we win tomorrow, we can qualify to around 16. So we're really focused on that for sure.
Finally, for me then, from this point, what would be success this season for you guys?
Well, we're still in the FA Cup. We're still in the Champions League. So obviously, if we win the FA Cup and Champions League, we'll be really happy.
Adam.
Hi Jeremy. Since you joined, has it sort of felt like everything you expected? Has it been even better than you imagined? Sort of take us into the first few months for yourself, really. Yeah,
100%. I think it's been really nice playing for Liverpool. The fans, you know, first time seeing how the fans were was really amazing. I'm playing in Anfield, really good as well. And yeah, the Premier League, you know, playing Premier League teams is as I expected. Yeah, they're really good. Even if you play the bottom team, they'll give you a challenge, you know. So yeah, it is what I've expected.
Just on that, there's been loads of talk about low blocks. I feel like you're one of the players who sort of tend to take players on a bit more, especially down the right hand side out. How are you finding that? Do you feel like the manager's encouraging you to be a bit more free? Is there focus on overloads down that side? How's that challenge just playing against low block for yourself?
For me, so when I'm on the pitch, I'm going to use my ability to the best, and I think I'm pretty comfortable going 1-against-1 with players, you know, and I know what I can do to the opposition, and I believe in my ability. So, of course, if you play like a low block, you have to like break through them somehow, and obviously, if I can help with my ability, I will use it.
Lewis.
Hi Jeremy, can you talk a bit about the step up in terms of the fitness and intensity levels from the Bundesliga to the Prem? I mean, I know you've had them 2 injuries, but before that your injury record was pretty spotless in Germany, so how hard has it been to step it up a bit?
Yeah, of course, the Bundesliga and Premier League. Of course, for me personally, the Premier League is the best league out there, but the Bundesliga is still a top league. But I think it has been a big difference, I think, in terms of like playing against the teams. Yeah, it's much more demanding, much more physical. So yeah, it's different.
Richard.
Hi Jeremy. You're at Leverkusen last year, and you had the position then of being defending champions and maybe having other teams sort of targeting you in that respect. Are there any similarities between the issues Leverkusen had last year and Liverpool have had this year?
Of course, Liverpool's the reigning champions. You know, everybody wants to beat us. You know, it's normal in football. If you're a champion, people want to show that we can beat the champions. So, in a sense, yeah, it was similar to when I was at Leverkusen when we were the champions. Everybody wanted to beat you. You know, so. Yeah, it's football. That's what's beautiful about the sport, you know. If you become champions, everybody wants to, like, you're the bad guy, you know. So yeah, it's nice.
Hi, Jeremy. Obviously, the weekend it was a blow to concede so late on, and everyone looked a little bit disappointed. Well, very disappointed at the end of the match. How easy is it to pick yourselves up after a blow like that? What's the mood like in the camp at the moment?
Yeah, of course. When it happens, it's really frustrating, really annoying, especially to lose a match like that last minute. Set piece, throw in, scruffy goal, you know, so it's really, really frustrating. But I think, obviously, you can be angry on that day, but then the next day, you switch on to the next match, you know. So I think my teammates were focused on Qarabag.
Arne, it appears you're even more stretched defensively with the injury to Joe Gomez. Have you got a time scale on Joe?
No, not really. But I can confirm that he's not available for tomorrow evening.
Have you been able to speak to Ibu further as well? Just wonder how he's doing.
Yeah, of course. I spoke to him. And if you know why he's not here, of course we both know that he's having a hard time. But I'm hoping and expecting him back soon, but also not for tomorrow evening's game.
Obviously, you still got Andy Robertson with you. What is the situation regarding his future now? And if he does stay in this window, the fact that there have been discussions of him possibly going in this window, does that mean this is his last season at Liverpool?
Well, a lot of questions in one. But Robbo is part of the team tomorrow evening, and he's been part of this squad, of this club for so many years. And happy to have him. Good that he's available, because that's something that's quite important for us at the moment, to have players available. And yeah, he will be part of the team, and nothing happened from my side.
Is he definitely staying in this window, though?
It's hard to say anything definitive in this world we are in, but I expect him to stay, yes. Yeah.
Arne, just finally from me, on the one hand, you've got the opportunity to seal your place in the last 16 of the Champions League, having beaten the likes of Atletico, Real, Inter Milan away, Marseille away. On the other hand, of course, the defeat at the weekend saw you slip out of the top 4 in the Premier League, which has led to further scrutiny. What do you feel you have to achieve now this season to kind of quieten the outside noise?
No, I think it's going to be really difficult to quiet the outside noise with the position we are in the league. So even if we win a few games, every loss or every disappointing result will start the noise coming back again. That's what you can expect if you started the season as we did. Not started, but at a certain moment with so many losses. So it's impossible to shut down the noise at a club like this if you are not competing for the league. What was the other? Was there another
It's
question?
just, what do you feel, though, you have to achieve to
What we
it
have to
down?
improve? Yeah, for me it's so simple. I think in between the boxes we're a very, 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 very good team. The way we play out from the back, the way we bring the ball towards promising positions, is the box entries we have. We also against Bournemouth so many times we were in positions where I would like my players to be in. But killing those moments, bringing it from promising positions towards chances, and if we have the chances, then be clinical and finish it off. That is something where we have to improve. So in that box we have to improve, and in the other box, other teams arrive there 3-4 times a game. But every time they arrive, not every time, but too many times if they arrive, it leads to chances and sometimes to goals. So there's a complete disbalance in how many times we arrive in promising positions and how many times other teams arrive there. But there's not a disbalance in the goals that are scored. And that's a very bad cocktail we are having. And if we can improve in both boxes, we can do very special things this season. If we can only improve in one box, then it's going to be probably an acceptable season, but not more than that. And if we can't improve in both boxes, it's going to be a lot of noise throughout the whole season. Richard?
Yeah, just building on that, Arne, when you sort of look at the two league tables, you're fourth in the Champions League table, you're sixth in the Premier League table. Which do you think is sort of a truer reflection of what you've done and your performances this season?
No, if I'm correct, it's a bit the same, isn't it? Fourth and sixth is quite similar.
Yeah, but
and before the weekend, we were fourth in the league.
But fourth in all of Europe in one respect, and sort of.
But we are more positive about the fourth place in the Champions League, because in the end it's about finishing top 8 mainly, and it doesn't matter that much, as we know from last season, to finish 1 or 2. So that's why we'll probably be a bit more happy with the fourth place in the Champions League than we are with the fourth or sixth place in the Premier League. Is there a big difference between us in both leagues? No, I don't think so. I think the biggest struggle we have is that we have to play in both leagues, which is what we want, by the way. But too many times after a Champions League game we've dropped points, or we've lost, actually. A lot of away games included. We've struggled far too many times with being the dominant team, and then you have to be clinical and score your goals, and then it's probably an easy game. But even in the 6 wins, the first 6, we had to fight till the end to make it work. Yeah, and if you then have a double program with the players we have available, with constantly the same players that have those those minutes, have to play those minutes. Yeah, then it's maybe not a complete surprise that in some games, in the end of the game, we didn't saw the same sprints back as we saw in all the other games, or we saw for 80 or 85 minutes. I think it's fair to say that in the last few minutes at Bournemouth, a few players were really tired. At least that was my take on it. That's why I made a few early substitutions, because I wanted to have fresh legs during that. But because of the amount of players we have available, I wasn't able to do the same as the Qarabag manager, to change 11 players and play with 11 other ones tomorrow evening. Beth?
Hi, Arne. Just on that, on the fitness, obviously you're not expecting many players back from injury anytime soon. So is that a worry for the rest of the season in terms of managing those minutes, because you do only have a small number of players relatively to work with?
That's not a worry, but that's a difficulty. Because I can assure you that I would have preferred to start with Hugo against Bournemouth. If we probably would have had 1 or 2 days extra, he would have 100% started that game again, because I liked his performance against Marseille. But he was out for injury for 2 weeks, and then he had to play quite a lot of games, and with only one player, number 9, available for the upcoming months, it made sense to me to manage his load as well, and that is what I had to do with more players. Jeremie Frimpong, who was sitting here just before me, is another example of that, giving him another time 90. I think you could see that he was tired just before I took him off. At least that was my take on it. And then it's a big risk to keep him on. But I want to emphasize on the fact how much respect I have for the players that we have, because it's almost constantly the same players that have to play, and they have to do this in difficult circumstances. What I mean with that is, results are not what we want, and we get scrutinized. We all are scrutinized, and we get the criticism that we deserve. But usually, if you get so much criticism, that does something to you mentally, and if you then have to play so many minutes, I can give you multiple examples of players then getting injured. So that's why I have so much respect for my players, that within the circumstances we are in, they are constantly available, except for the 3 or 4 long-term injuries we have.
Yeah, and just on Joe, obviously with his injury, is that likely to change anything in terms of the transfer market, or do you expect him back in a relatively short amount of time?
I expect him back in a relatively short time, yeah.
Bruce?
You mentioned similar question on Saturday. You mentioned like the red zone or risk zone or whatever with the injuries. How hard is it as a manager to balance? You know, the fans might be saying, "Oh, why aren't you starting Hugo? Or why are you taking off Jeremie?" But you have to look at the bigger picture of, if you did, they could pull a hamstring or pull a muscle. How hard is it to balance that?
Yeah, very hard. Especially with the problems we were having with the long-term injuries. Because if I would have started Alexander-Arnold and giving Hugo a rest, then I don't think any fan would have complained. But now I have to adapt with the system, or have to adapt with players in different positions. Taking Jeremie off, I don't think anyone would have complained if I could have brought the same type of player in that could do a similar job. But now I had ended up the game with 4 defenders at least, they were playing in right fullback, centre back, left fullback, and only 2 of them were real defenders. Yeah, that doesn't help, of course, with the narrative that I'm completely aware of. But what would even be worse, and that has also happened this season. Conor Bradley was a great example of that. That if I gave him two games in a row with a player that wasn't used to that, he got injured, was out for a few weeks again. So that is a difficult balance. And I'm not always, before people say, yeah, you don't listen to performance staff or medical staff, I'm listening, and sometimes I make my own decisions. There has been a player that was on the pitch and made a goal in the end of the game where it probably would have been better to take him off earlier. So it's not always that you listen to that, but you use your eye. You see Jeremie Frimpong is tired. You see when he makes an action, just before I took him off, it wasn't the same as we are used of him. I speak to my players. I know from them how they feel and if they are ready to go again 90 minutes. So that you all take into account, and then you make a lineup and you decide on your substitutions. But that doesn't always, for people who don't have all the information, that could lead to scrutiny. I'm completely aware of that fact, and that is normal. If you're not aware of all the information, then it's not so strange that you criticize some decisions. But I think if people would knew the struggles I'm facing, they would be more understandable with the decisions I make. But I'm not asking for anyone to be, but it's the situation we're in.
No. Hi, Arne. I'm kind of following on from that. Obviously, you explained there the nature of the injury situation you're having to deal with this season. It wasn't quite as bad last season. Obviously, there were some injuries, but largely you had almost a full squad to deal with in the business end of the season. Considering where we are in football with so many games being played, do you think that this injury situation might make you reassess the ideas around squad depth and squad size for maybe future seasons?
Yeah, but even if you would reconsider and you come to a different decision, then the question is: are we able to make to change it? Can we make this squad bigger with the money available and the things we can do? So, but last season showed, although I think we were maybe 1 or 2 players short compared to last season in terms of numbers. Yeah, and if you add then 3 long-term injuries to that, yeah, then all of a sudden it's quite a lot. Again, this is not going to be a popular opinion, what I'm going to tell you now, but maybe the reason why we won the league last season is that we had to play Paris Saint-Germain in the last 16, because, as you know, they beat us, and we had every time a week to prepare for our next game. Maybe that has helped us as well. Maybe if we had to double that program, which Arsenal had, and they dropped a few points in that period of time, that has helped us in winning the league. So we are aware, every manager is aware, the bigger squad you have, the better you're equipped that you are for that many games. But I'm also aware of the fact that even today I had to disappoint 1 or 2 players that would prefer to play. Now, and if you have 10 or 15 who want that's also not a good thing to have. So it's not an easy balance to find, but obvious because of the 3 long-term injuries. Now it's a disbalance. That is obvious.
And I think you just said earlier that if you improve in 1 box, it would be an acceptable season. What would your definition of an acceptable season be?
That's interesting, yeah. I was hoping no one would ask that. When you are Liverpool, the aim is to win the league. But we've only did this twice in the last 30 years. We want to be competitive in every single competition we are in. That's always the aim. But reality is also that in the last 3 years we've won 1 League Cup and 1 Premier League title. So when is things acceptable? I have my opinion about. I'm not going to share that. Outside world has his opinion about that. As we all know, it's a lot been said about the 450 million, where people tend to forget the 300 million we've brought in. So yeah, I have my opinion about what is acceptable, but I'm not going to share that. And but I think I give some info about with what I just said.
This one here.
Qarabag have had success against big European teams. Which aspects of their play are hardest to prepare for?
Or harder
To prepare.
to prepare for? No, it's always the individuals, the players that make things difficult. In terms of playing style, they're very direct, fast players. Go very direct towards goal with a lot of runs in behind. Players who are comfortable on the ball. And as you said, they've shown this season against big clubs, because there are only big clubs in the Champions League, that they're a very good team and a hard team to beat. Even Chelsea, they were able to keep them on a 2-2. So I think even if you look at our Champions League campaign this season, some teams maybe have been lucky enough to face the ones that are now all outside the next round, so they're from 24 to 34. I think there's only one team from those 10 that we've faced. So we've had a lot of strong teams to face, and we did really well, but maybe 2 days afterwards when we had to play in the league, that brought us some problems, because we've played so many strong teams in Europe. Welcome back.
Hi, Arne. Given the number of defenders you've got, Wataru, I assume, is an option tomorrow like he was at Bournemouth. Is he ready to play successive games, and maybe on Saturday as well he might be needed against Newcastle, given that he's not long back from injury? How's his fitness, and how's he been behind the scenes this season, because he hasn't had a lot of football?
Yeah, that is interesting that you say this. Maybe you say this because you just listened to me, and because he's been out with an injury for quite a long time. Had to play against Bournemouth quite a long time, and now tomorrow a game coming up, and 3 days later another game coming up. As I also said, that's not the only way I decide on my lineup. Tactics are involved in that as well. And it's for sure that at centre-back tomorrow there will not be a centre-back. There can only play a midfielder over there, because there are no centre-backs available, apart from Virgil, who is one of the players I credit a lot for him being fit all the time. At his age, constantly be ready to play another 90 is something we should not take for granted. Coming back on what is acceptable for me, I can say if we improve in both boxes, I think we're able to win something this season. So, and if we only improve in one box, it's going to be really difficult to win something this season.
Last one over here. Just wait for the mic. It's for him.
So, hi Arne. Earlier today at the training center, you went out to the pitch with your Hungarian players. Could you tell us what was the topic of the conversation? And given the few defenders you have, do you consider to play Dom as a right back?
Always consider, but I also consider to play him at the midfield. And the two Hungarians are usually the first one to come out.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, indeed. Is there a reason for that?
I should ask you that.
No, I mean maybe it's typical Hungarian, but the two of them are always outside, probably as the first two. Yeah, we spoke a bit about Qarabag, about tactics, about what we wanted to do tomorrow before I spoke to the rest of the team, and the challenges that are ahead of us, and challenges in terms of Qarabag. So we spoke about that with the three of us.
So, and what about Dom? Do you consider to playing him as a right back, given that
as I said,
you have so few defenders?
I consider him for every position almost. But we will wait and see. Jeremie Frimpong is there to play as a fullback, but he can also play as a winger. But on the right wing, I also have Mo Salah. So I have two options for the right wing to play, and one option with Jeremie as a right fullback. But if we include Dom or Curtis, then all of a sudden I have three options to play at right back. So, but we both agree on the fact that he's best playing in the midfield, and the two of us definitely agree on that. With the two, I mean Dominic and me. I don't know what your opinion is, but that's ours.
Thank you.
You're welcome.